Today is what's known as Melanoma Monday. It comes right as we start Skin Cancer Awareness Month. Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the U.S. It impacts all ages, all races. It's important to know how to protect yourself. That's why we have Christine Brannock, the Oncology Outreach Manager from Cone Health Cancer Center, here with us today. And she's reviewing all kinds of things that you need to know and what to watch out for. All right, first and foremost, let's just talk sunscreen, because that's, I think, what all of us think about, right? There's do's and don'ts with sunscreen. So what are some of those do's and don'ts?
First of all, we should wear a sunscreen of at least a 30 or higher. And the SPF is the sun protection factor that you should look for. And the reason we say 30 or higher is because a 30 protects against 97% of UV rays. If we were to look at a 15, it only protects against 93% of UV rays. Now, anything of 50 or higher is going to protect against 99% of UV rays.
And of course, it does that protection based on how you apply it and how they tested it. So let's talk about that. It does matter when you apply sunscreen and how much of it.
Yes, you should apply sunscreen about 20 to 30 minutes before you go outside. A little rule of thumb we say is the magic number 30. 30 minutes before you go outside and a number 30 or higher.
Okay, and so then how often do we need to reapply? Because I think a lot of people put it on at the beginning of the day and they spend all day out at the beach and then never reapply it.
Yeah, we should reapply every couple of hours while we're outside. No sunscreen is completely waterproof. So some sunscreens will say how long that it is water resistant for. Some may say 80 minutes. But it's important to kind of use a couple hours as a rule of thumb. One thing I always tell kids is when you're getting out of the pool or you're taking a little break, great time to reapply that sunscreen.
All right, let's talk about how much sunscreen. So like the lotion kind of sunscreen?
So if you're using the lotion kind of sunscreen, it's around the size of a shot glass that you should apply, which is about 1.5 ounces. If you use other sunscreens like the spray sunscreens, it's really important that you spray it on really good and you also rub it in. A lot of times we get a rush with those sunscreens, then we might miss a spot and then we might still get a sunburn.
Okay, when she said a shot glass, that is like that much sunscreen. That is a lot of sunscreen. And then is that for all over your body?
For most, it would cover all over their body. Some people may need a little extra, but it's just very important that you get it applied very well, evenly across your body.
Yeah, I would guess that most of us don't use enough because there's like an 8-ounce bottle, right? And there's like 4 of us. We should go through at least half the bottle in one time out.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So are there areas that people forget to cover more than others?
Yeah, it's very important that we cover our whole body when we're putting our sunscreen on. A lot of times we miss places like our ears. We see a lot of basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas on the ears, which are types of skin cancer. It's important, too, to make sure that we cover our hands and our feet. Those places get left off a lot also.
All right.
Those areas that are going to be sun exposed are very important that we cover them with sunscreen.
Yeah, I think of, you wear like a baseball cap, right? And your ears are exposed right there. You need to put that on there. All right, let's talk about the other layers of protection that we have besides sunscreen, like sun protective clothing. What does that include?
So there are some clothing that do protect, have the SPF in them, and those are great. Another cheaper option is you can always wear darker color clothing. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, it's so hot outside. Darker color clothing is more hot, and yes, it is. But the little rule of thumb we always say is if you take your shirt and you hold it up to the sunlight, if you can see through that shirt, that means the sun's rays could get to that shirt and you could still get a sunburn.
Through your clothes.
Yes. So if you do, because we think about white t-shirts a lot of times. So if we do wear a lighter colored shirt, it is important to make sure that you do put your sunscreen on your shoulders and your chest and your back so that they are protected while you're outside.
Okay, that's a really interesting tidbit there. So you're going to hold it up to the sun, and if you can see through it, don't choose that one if you're looking for sun protection. Okay. All right, any other last tidbits before we head to break?
Yeah, so it's also important to wear a hat that covers our whole head. I know you mentioned baseball caps, but it is important to wear one that covers, it's a wide brim hat, such as this one. So we can make sure that we are protecting our ears, that we are protecting our scalp, because those are areas that we tend to forget. A lot of times, like in the scalp here, a A lot of people don't wear sunscreen, so it's important to wear that hat so that we can make sure those areas are protected. A lot of times we find melanomas there in the scalp because we can't see those. It's hard to, put sunscreen there because it does get a little messy in the hair.
Absolutely, yeah, I wouldn't have been thinking about that. Okay, all right, when we come back, we're looking at skin cancer warning signs and when it is time for you to go to the doctor. That's coming up next.